Welcome back to another video, guys. Quick disclaimer, I am not a psychologist or a trained character analyzer by any means. This is just my interpretation and analysis of the movie. Welcome back to another Starseed video. We're going to have our first scripted video here, and what a better way to christen such a moment than to talk about one of my favorite films so far of 2024 and just break down the characters and story. So just to recap the story a little bit, in my mind, Challengers is almost like a tennis anime movie, like the buildup of two rivals, but it's not just that. It's like this weird love triangle and a back and forth of manipulation through three characters. The story seems to go back and forth all together like a tennis match. It follows three different character story lives, 3 sets and 3 games through a little bit over a decade, starting from when they're 18 to their early 30s. The characters in question carry a complicated relationship with one another, like Pat and Art being a pro tennis combo called Fire and Ice. They share a bit more of like a more than friends, quote unquote, kind of bond. They obviously have like repressed sexual feelings for each other, or at least that's how I've interpreted it. They're very close after a tennis match. They meet an 18-year-old tennis phenom, Tashi Duncan. This is where Tashi states she doesn't want to be a homewrecker between the two boys because she obviously knows that they're gay. But she ends up getting the two boys to kiss in their hotel room and eventually makes them play for her number the next day, which pretty much sets up the relationship and entire dynamic for the movie. Now that that's out the way, let's start with the characters and analyze their minds and if they're right or wrong and who the actual villain of the entire story is. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and start off with Art. Now to me, Art is this little soy boy who even into his 30s is still this like beta male, but I guess I can't fault him because whatever he did seemingly worked to his benefit because he pretty much got everything he wanted, I'd say. He's got the girl that he loves, although she doesn't really love him back. She just wants that good tennis, but you know, more on that later. He's got a family. He's a big figure in the tennis world. Sounds to me like he's winning, you know, at least in certain areas of his life. But what he has to go through, what he's done, and where he is now forms the basis of his entire character and where he mentally is throughout this tennis match and just throughout the entire story. Art is coming back from an injury and is on a downward spiral in his tennis career. His wife Tashi is also his coach and is coming off her own injury from years ago and is basically trying to live her tennis career through Art, the one that she never had. Art realizes that he's playing for both of them and is trying to complete a career Grand Slam and win the US Open at this point in time. Unfortunately for Art and Tashi, Art is getting whooped by just like lower level guys that aren't even like seeing him. But due to his wife setting up the matches, she goes ahead and sets up this local challenger at this tournament in New Rochelle in order for Art to like gain his confidence back and beating an opponent that can't beat him or can't shake his confidence. But although it's never stated, Tashi may have set up the entirety of the match knowing that his bro, his lover, rival, Patrick would be there and possibly even play in the finals. Art and Patrick both make it to the finals of this tournament, which brings me to the next character that we do see, which is Patrick. Patrick, I would say, in my opinion, is the most genuine or at least the purest of intentions of all three of the characters. He's not really driven by the same motivations as Tashi or Art. There's even a scene in the movie that pretty much encapsulates Patrick's entire character where Art and Patrick are in this sauna for the challenger that they're playing in. And Patrick comes in pretty playfully trying to talk to Art as if they're still boys. Art says something to the effect of "put your dick away," and Patrick just tries to find out why Art hates him so much. I guess Art doesn't think that, you know, Patrick and him are peers anymore, and he says as much in the story. And so Art says the only things that they have to talk about is tennis, and that not even the most obsessive tennis fan thinks about Patrick or even thinks that he matters. But Patrick says, "I'm not talking about tennis. I don't matter." And he asks Art, and Art replies, "What the fuck else do we have to talk about?" Patrick even says that he misses playing with Art, which if you can read between the lines, he definitely means the gay things. Art doesn't really like him saying that, and he says that he doesn't miss playing with him and that he's too old for it. But again, if you can read between the lines, it's just that repressed sexual tension. But I digress. So much of Art and Tashi's story really intertwines with Patrick that I couldn't really mention all the manipulation Art does without mentioning Patrick first. So to sum up Patrick, he's a pretty talented rich boy. He's also probably, you know, a twink, same with Art, who is just, I guess, a tad bit more easygoing, or I guess has more confidence. His motivation seems to just be like, you know, coochie and playing tennis to get away from his parents and not have like a regular job. He just wants to do what he wants to do. And it's even inferred that when he's older, he also might be a drug addict, as the movie depicts him scratching his arm with bruises on it towards the beginning of the movie, which just may be cinematic storytelling. So back to when Art and Patrick were teenagers. Their relationships to be that of, like I said, a more than friendlier bond, quote unquote. But you can tell Patrick was like the big bro, if you will. He kind of like talked with his swagger and confidence, and he did teach Art how to beat his meat. Pause. He even was the more talented out of the two in tennis than Art was at the time, whereas Art became a great tennis player by grinding and shit, you know, and stealing his boy's girl and having his girl peg him to become a better tennis player. But that last part didn't really happen, but it might as well have happened, you know. I guess this is where I really talk about how the love triangle starts in the movie. Patrick and Art play for Tashi's number at the beginning of the movie. Tashi said she would give her number to whoever won, and Patrick had won that day, which then caused Patrick and Tashi to start dating. While they were dating, Tashi had went to college, and funnily enough, Art had went to the same college. Art would then take Tashi out to lunch and talk to her and basically try and slime out his boy Patrick by telling Tashi that he isn't in love with her and that Patrick is cheating. This isn't a relationship, blah 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 blah. All just tactics that Art is trying to employ here. Then Art tries to do the same thing to Patrick, and Patrick sees right through it. He even calls Art a snake with a smile on his face, and he says that it only makes it hotter. He also states that it's what's been missing from his tennis game, which prompts Art to push Patrick off of him, and Patrick states that Art is playing percentage tennis, which pretty much is Art's whole character throughout this entire movie in a nutshell. He's playing to win, and he plans on getting Tashi even when it looks like he's lost or it's at the benefit or the cost of his best friend. Patrick isn't as passionate about the game as tennis as, you know, Tashi or Art is. Due to this, Tashi tells Patrick that he's not a tennis player and that Patrick just coasts by on talent, and that he always thinks he's won before the match is even over, which results in a fight, and it becomes a pretty big argument in which Patrick ends up standing up to Tashi, telling her that he's her peer and that he's not part of a fan club, and then they ultimately break up, which then leads me into the only woman of the entire movie that matters, and that is Tashi Duncan. Now let me tell you something about Tashi, man. All Tashi wants is a good tennis match, and will do literally anything to get one. So now that we've got the two boys out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the woman of the movie. She is very dominating, a very powerful presence in this movie. Her actions set off chain reactions, and she's very good at manipulating certain situations. So again, she gets the two boys to kiss in the hotel room. She ends up dating Patrick. She argues with Patrick, trying to coach him and little bro him. They break up, and she has a match that same day. In the match, she ends up making him pivot to hit the ball and completely turns her knee to like mashed potatoes. She went from Tashi Duncan to D Rose within a matter of seconds. So after this injury, she's sitting in the back. Patrick comes back to try and apologize, and Art tells Patrick to get the fuck out. That's a little slimy if you ask me, but I digress. Later on in life, Art ends up asking Tashi to become his coach and eventually his girlfriend because he feels bad about her knee and says that he wants to win. They get together and they start dating, and they end up going to the US Open in Atlanta, and lo and behold, guess who's there? Patrick is there. Tashi and Patrick end up hooking up behind Art's back while they're in the Open, which repeats itself later in the film in present time. And yes, Tashi fucks Patrick while she's married to Art and while she has a kid. So in order for Patrick to throw the match with Art, that is at the current place that they're at in New Rochelle, the Tire Challenger, she makes sure that she fucks Patrick so that Art can win the match. She pretty much just sticks to her true character the entire time. She just wants to see some good fucking tennis. She doesn't really care about love, and as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure she hates Art, the only person she ends up marrying towards the end of the movie. She ends up basically having an orgasm as Art wins the match against Patrick, and Patrick seemingly throws the match to catch his former friend Art from falling over the net and having an injury. And as he catches him, they just have one last embrace, and that's pretty much how the movie ends. So let's get into the synopsis. So my overall synopsis for the movie, I don't think anyone in the movie is the main villain. Maybe you feel different. Go ahead and let me know. And I definitely don't think there's a main manipulator. But I did have to lean in one way, and no, I'm not a misogynist, I would have to say that the main manipulator is Tashi, just because of how her actions make the entire story kind of become this reactive, like, three-way triangle when things, I guess, presumably were just fine beforehand. She goes to the extremes for her love of tennis, but then again, she can't play, so this is like how she plays the game, you know what I'm saying? It's like a back and forth. I'd say all of these characters are just manipulating each other for the things that they want the most. I think these are like three deeply complex written characters who are all playing their own games for their own wants. I think Patrick's wants are just like coochie and to play with Art again and see his friends succeed. Although, you know, I may be a little biased, I may be a little naive. I do like Patrick as a character, but then again, I like all the characters, you know. I like Art, I like Tashi. I think they're all well written, but I guess I would say I like Patrick out of all of them the most. But if you guys think Patrick has other motives, let me know. I do believe that Tashi motives are pretty clear from the start, and that she keeps it pretty honest. All she wants to see is the you know, good old ball and racket. She'll do anything for that, and do it at the expense of anyone else in order to live through Art. Art wanted Tashi and was just, you know, obsessed with her, and this was his core motivations, and he genuinely did want to be good at tennis, so he got the girl and he got good at tennis. He got the girl, he got tennis, you get what I'm saying? Like, he got everything he wanted. So everybody played for something they wanted, and I believe everyone was wrong in their certain actions. Nobody was right for anything that they did, except for maybe Patrick just realizing he no longer had the potential to go to the Open and, you know, giving up on that dream so Art could win. And again, I may be just, you know, glazing Patrick again, but, or maybe, you know, Art truly did win. Who knows? Either way, guys, go ahead and let me know your thoughts on these characters, what you guys thought of the movie. And if you're liking this new format of me, you know, scripting, I do got to get a little bit better at it, but definitely let me know how you guys feel. I may do like a softer script or something, but yeah, this has been another Starseed video. Peace and love. Comment, subscribe, you know, all that fun stuff. And catch you guys in the next one. Starseed out.